Working full-time and going to school full-time was not easy. I was working from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then taking night classes from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. and also taking Saturday classes too. I was honestly burnt out. Plus, I actually found another job where I would be making $92,000 a year and I was only 19 years old. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a great day today. My name is Shiv and I'm a technical lead at a software engineering company. I'm also a real estate investor and I'm really excited to make this video because I just hit 100 subscribers and I wanted to make a special video to thank all the people that have subscribed to me so early. And in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my backstory, how I became a self-taught software engineer, and how you can do the same thing. I do want to preface this video by saying that this video is not about me bragging about how much money I make every year. Instead, the purpose of this video is to provide my backstory and also provide motivation for others who maybe have no resources and no guidance to become a software engineer. And I learned a lot from YouTube when I first started, and I feel like it's only right for me to now provide back, as I wish a video like this existed when I first started. So some context about myself. I do full stack development and I also do native iOS development. And I also do a lot of data science work. So a bit of jack of all trades. Now, it wasn't always this way. I was not always a full stack and iOS developer. This has been a course of the past 10 years. I actually started off as a front-end engineer. But before I go into exactly how I started as a software engineer, I want to mention a little bit about my background growing up. So I came to America when I was only 6 years old. My family was very poor. I came here with my 3 older sisters and my mom, and my dad was already living here. One thing led to another, and things didn't work out between my parents, and my dad fled to India. So it was just me and my 3 sisters and my mom in the US without any sort of income coming in. So we grew up with absolutely zero resources. I went to one of the worst middle schools and one of the worst high schools in New York. We literally had metal detectors just going into school. So yeah, it was not fun. But I've always had a love for technology. I've always been fascinated with how things work under the hood. I used to play a lot of video games when I was young and hack different consoles like PSP, PS3, and so forth. So I've always been very curious about technology. When I was younger, I was also really into graphic design when I was a teenager. But then when I graduated from high school, I went to a 2-year community college, and my major there was multimedia programming, which was a combination between programming and graphic design. The graphic design portion came very naturally to me, but when I started taking programming classes, it actually was a lot more challenging than I thought because I had a really creative background and that sort of logical thinking was really conflicting with my background. Until this day, I don't know why I did this, but I told myself that I really want to challenge myself in this programming class and try to do as best as I can. So I did exactly that. I spent my nights and weekends just focusing on these programming classes that I was taking in school, and I ended up being obsessed and loving them because I was able to take what I did in graphic design. I was able to convert my designs into interactive elements, and I was just obsessed after that. So I spent all my nights, all my weekends, times just learning how to code on my own. That's how much I loved it. I had zero idea I could make any money from this. I had zero mentors, zero resources. I was very naive. I had no idea what I would be doing with my career. All I knew is I really liked to code. So one of the classes I had to take in college was getting an internship. I applied to several internships and I landed one internship that required absolutely no coding experience. It was a 3-month unpaid internship and they covered transportation and food costs. And 3 months later, they offered me a full-time job, $40K a year. And while I was working there, I was going to school full-time as well. I finished my 2-year degree and then I switched over to a 4-year degree studying computer science. Working full-time and going to school full-time was not easy. I was working from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then taking night classes from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. and also taking Saturday classes too. I was honestly burnt out. My grades were getting affected, and to be completely honest, I was learning way more on the job than I was in school. Plus, I actually found another job where I would be making $92,000 a year, and I was only 19 years old. So at that point, I made a decision that I felt like college wasn't for me, and I believe it was the best decision I could have made because it was just uphill from there. I was learning way more on the job, and from the $92,000 job, it was only uphill from there. Things got better and better and better, and after that, the rest was history. And now I'm sitting here making YouTube videos for you guys. You know, like making these videos is really me stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm not the type of person to be confident in front of the camera or speak well in front of the camera, but this channel is a little bit larger than about myself. I know when I first started, I wish something like this existed. Someone who can provide mentorship and guidance to people that have absolutely no resources and have really difficult upbringings and provide a positive direction for them to move forward in life. And that's exactly why I created this channel. It's for you guys, it's not for me. So if you do enjoy this kind of videos, consider subscribing and liking below, and that's always really appreciated. So now I want to talk a little bit about the positives of working as a software engineer. First and foremost, it's a very stable and high demand job, meaning there's always going to be a demand for it. Technology is only growing, and it's only going to be growing more in the future. So it's a really safe career to strive towards. The next is being able to work from anywhere. You really just need a computer and an internet connection to be a software engineer. So it's nice if you want to travel and be a digital nomad. You can also do that being a software engineer. The third is that it's usually a lower stress job. Now, no job is perfect. It really depends on your manager, on your company. But for the most part, being a software engineer is lower stress than other industries. You generally are assigned tasks that you need to focus and work on and build them out on your own time and deliver on deadlines. Compared to being a doctor or a lawyer, it's definitely a lot less stress. You also have flexible hours. A lot of tech companies also provide free breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a lot of other perks like 401k match, great health insurance, so forth. So overall, there's a lot of benefits of being a software engineer. What are some of the negatives of becoming a software engineer? First and foremost, you're all on your desk all day long, so it could affect your posture. So you want to make sure you move a lot throughout the day and exercise adequately. The next is you're working in isolation a lot. You are just working with your computer. So if you like to be around other people, software engineering might not be the right career for you. The next is that it could be boring to some people. Some people don't enjoy coding. Some people just don't enjoy that sort of technical work. Last but not least, there's a difficult barrier to entry, meaning you have to learn a lot. You have to learn all these different languages, their syntax, how their logic operators work, how to actually combine multiple languages, for instance, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build a web page. There's a lot of things you need to remember and recall. And because of that, coding can be challenging to learn for some people. Also want to talk about some common misconceptions. One, you have to be a genius to know how to code. That is absolutely not true. Anyone can learn how to code. It just really depends on how much dedication they have. The second misconception is that you have to be really good at math. That's absolutely not true. Unless you're going into machine learning, creating video games, creating visuals or graphics, you barely use any math. You might use basic arithmetic, but other than that, you're not really using that much math. The next is you have to have grown up with rich parents and resources to learn how to code. That's absolutely not true. There's so many resources online, a lot of them that are free or very low cost that provide you guidance on how to become a software engineer. The fourth is coders are programmers. That's not true. Yes, there's some coders that do have that programmer vibe, but most software engineers are generally pretty nice and helpful. And last but not least, it's boring. Now, this could be true for some people. Some people might not enjoy coding, but just because you know how to code and you learn to become a software engineer doesn't mean you have to be a software engineer. That's the beauty of tech. You can learn how to code and go into product management, which is more of how do you build the products and providing direction for others to build a product while you don't build it yourself. You build the specs around it, but you have engineers who actually build the product. Or if you know how to code, you can also get into graphic design. If you like doing more creative things, knowing how to code will highly benefit you as a graphic designer because it'll just be a huge advantage that you have over other graphic designers. So how do you know if you're going to enjoy being a software engineer? Number one, are you the type of person that likes to understand how things work under the hood? Do you like to take things apart and understand how to reconstruct them? If you do, then you'll really like programming because that's what it's all about. Do you enjoy learning ambiguous concepts? For instance, do you like to study how the universe works, or do you like to study how railroads work or how trains are constructed? If you do, then you'll enjoy being a software engineer because back to my point one, you like to understand how things work under the hood. Third is if you enjoy being creative and you like to solve tough problems, then being a software engineer will be a great fit for you as well. Last but not least, are you motivated enough to work independently most times and learn on your own? If you answered yes to all those questions, then there's a good chance that you'll enjoy being a software engineer. So how can you land your first job being a software engineer? Now, software engineering is a big industry, right? You have machine learning, you have web development, you have iOS development, you have Android development. There's a lot to unpack there. So it can be quite overwhelming for someone to start off not knowing exactly where to start off with. My suggestion is to start off learning JavaScript because JavaScript is really used throughout everything. What you're watching this video right now is using a JavaScript player. The website that you're seeing that's built on YouTube is built using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So JavaScript is really used everywhere. So I suggest starting learning JavaScript first and then move towards HTML, CSS. When you learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, you have all it takes to start building websites. Give yourself 3 months. 2 weeks will be spent learning HTML, 2 weeks will be spent learning CSS, and the rest will be focused on JavaScript and combining all that you've learned. Because you've learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you'll have what it takes to become a front-end engineer, and then you'll get a sense of if you enjoy learning how to code or not. And you'll also understand if you like front-end engineering, because a lot of people might prefer back-end engineering, which is a lot more data-driven. So where do you learn these concepts? My favorite website where I've learned how to code myself personally is teamtreehouse.com. I'm not sponsored by Team Treehouse in any way, shape, or form. I just really like how they explain their material. They visualize every single concept, so no matter how complicated it is, they have animations explaining exactly how things work and really simplify these complicated concepts. And personally, I really enjoy Team Treehouse, so I suggest that if you're learning. Not to mention Team Treehouse, I'm pretty sure it's pretty cheap. It's only $25 a month, so it's a pretty good investment for the knowledge that you're receiving. If you don't want to pay $25, there's a lot of resources that are free. There's a lot of free resources on YouTube. There's free code camp where they teach you how to code. There's other paid resources too. The moral of the story, you have unlimited resources online to learn how to code. After you spend 3 months learning how to code and you realize that you actually really enjoy it, I recommend joining a coding bootcamp. 3 that come to my mind. Number 1 is Hack Reactor. Number 2 is General Assembly. And number 3 is Full Stack Academy. Because these coding bootcamps will take what you've learned on your own and really apply them, and they'll teach you even more things in person or online, and it'll help you build a small portfolio. Because in the end of the day, you want to build a portfolio website, a website that contains a few projects that you've built that demonstrates that you can actually code. And after you have a portfolio website built and you spend your time at coding bootcamps, you build a resume for yourself and you start applying to internships. And because you have a resume and a portfolio and a coding bootcamp background and you've learned it on your own, you have a very high chance of landing a paid internship. So after you spend 3 months learning how to code on your own, then you spend another 3 to 4 months at a coding bootcamp. Now you have a portfolio website built, but there's one other step you need to take, and that is learning how to solve coding interview questions. Now that is a skill on its own. I have a website, it's called frontendlead.com, that teaches you how to study for front-end engineering specific interview questions. Studying for front-end engineering interview questions is completely different from learning how to code. The studying for these questions are so vital because if you do not study each and every one of these questions, you run the risk of 1, not passing the interview, and 2, not getting paid as much as you could have gotten paid if you actually study these questions. And they're a completely different skill set to learn. So I really highly recommend, if anything you get out of this video, learn how to code, but dedicate about 2 months to 3 months just studying coding interview questions, because that will really help you land a successful high-paying job. And lastly here, most likely you'll land a great job offer. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, but you can only prepare and try so much from your end, and you increase your chances of landing a job if you've taken all the steps that I've mentioned in this video. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, press the like button below and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks, bye.